Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 537 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Yeah. Today, recording day is Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. And I think it's going to be a lovely day here at the Beaver Lodge. It's still a little bit over zero, which is, again, very disconcerting given that we are December 18th.
There's barely any snow here right now.
None here.
It's almost all gone.
If I want to see snow, I got to go to the back of a hockey arena.
Wow.
There's nothing. So again, really weird. But the weather is, it's again, a nice, pleasant, very late autumn day.
Because it is still autumn.
Yes.
I mean, meteorologically, it's been winter for a little while, but
yes.
Calendar-wise, winter doesn't. First day is December 21st, so it's still technically autumn, and it feels like autumn.
I could still go to the tennis court and play today.
I don't know if you can do that here. The outdoor court had a lot of snow on it, which has melted considerably. However, last week we had a lot of snow, got really cold, and then we had a big melt, and then it got cold again. So it created a lot of slush and ice. So the outdoor rink, which started to get a good base, is now.
Yeah. But it's like the tennis club keeps the nets up until like the first like really big, huge dump.
Well, there is tennis courts just over at Bethel Woods Park, right? Just in behind the Elgin Beer Project, St. Louis. So those courts, the nets are still up.
I know.
I walked by it last night and there was snow on the ground, but by the end of the day today, there won't be.
Yeah. Tennis outdoors in December in Canada.
Not normal. In Ontario. Not normal. Not normal.
and
Vancouver? Sure. Right?
Right.
Vancouver? Yeah. That's entirely plausible. But here?
No. So, really weird. And, curling wise, fortunately, our arena figured out something because when the temperature went up to above, they're close to 6 again, we thought, oh, God, we're going to have all the troubles we've had all season long so far. But I guess they found a way to keep the arena extra cold or something. I don't know, but things traveled well yesterday. So when we played, but yeah, it's just a couple of years ago when we were talking. I don't know if we mentioned it on the show, but a whole bunch of Winter Olympians got together, and I think they went to the house and they made a plea. They said like we have the Winter Olympics, we rake in the medals, we're all proud Canada, 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 right? If this continues, what hill are we going to ski down?
Yes. They'll have to start holding training in northern Labrador. I
But
mean, right?
where the Winter Olympics are always, at least the downhill skaters are always going to be in one place
Hmm.
at one point.
Yes. Yeah.
There's going to be no.
It won't be a moving thing. It's like, okay, and today we go to Los Angeles for the Winter Olympics. And we're going to go to the downhill skiing, which is taking place in northern Labrador, several thousand kilometers further north. And I say northern Labrador because there's some amazing mountains there,
Mhm.
get a ton of snow. The only way you can get to them is by chopper. That's it. There's no other way. There's no roads. There's no airports. There's nothing. It's chopper. So maybe they do it in northern Alaska, where they have what they call the best champagne powder on earth.
Mm.
Again, in remote areas where there is no civilization, there is no runways, there is no infrastructure, there's nothing. It's
No
like
search and rescue.
nothing for thousands of kilometers. There's nothing. Now, trying to build up an Olympics type venue in a place like that, you're going to get a lot of opposition on it.
Mhm. Well, it's also going to be ridiculously expensive, right? And
Yeah.
prohibitive. But that's the whole thing, So everybody's, you got this whole section, ha ha ha, climate change, like this, and and they sit there and they go like, "Go speed skaters, go skiers, go losers." Yeah, where are you going to find an indoor bobsled track refrigerated
Well,
forever, like a big one?
well,
They're
I
going to be.
mean, in
I mean,
China, they've just built the world's largest indoor ski hill, larger than the one that's in Dubai, and maybe that's what we start doing.
but like big enough and tall enough and fast enough for elite Olympic competition.
Well, this is the thing. It's like it's conceivable that we could do that, but it would be what, 100 billion to build something like that.
And then how do you change the mountain from Olympics to Olympics so it's not like the same course, the same way every damn time?
Well, theoretically, with the snow buildup, they could do
Yeah,
that, but
they could, but
I mean, we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars to build something that would be large enough to host an Olympic or FIS event.
right.
In
So I
in
mean,
in Switzerland, by the way, sorry to cut you off, but in
yep.
Switzerland, by the way, in the Alps, they've come up with a specialized snow blanket to cover the glaciers, to keep the glaciers from melting any further. They've been working on this for a number of years. It's a very special material. It's about this thick. It's white. I can't tell you exactly what it's made out of, but they've been testing it out for a number of years now so that they could maintain the glacier cover, because as the glaciers shrink, there's less snow, there's less, it's bad for all of us.
Yep. Yeah. Wow. Oh my God. So, um, long sort of diversion, but a big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Mysteries from Covered Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Ah,
That's why
okay.
we're a different morning show, right?
That's why I just said, hey, we're chatty. What can you say?
It says in the title, what makes the Daily Beaver Morning Show unique. The Daily Beaver Morning Show is a unique and engaging morning program that covers a wide variety of topics, from current events and political commentary to lighthearted discussion and interviews.
Where's this from?
YouTube inspiration. It's in our title this morning. I'm trying some new AI stuff with YouTube. They suggested this, so I thought we'd give it a go. And if you read the title to the show, that's what it starts with.
Okay. I like it. Makes us sound classy.
Outline the rise of a different morning show.
Ooh, okay. Kits and Cubs. Oddly enough, considering the sheer amount of news over the past couple of days, yesterday, relatively calm.
Compared to Monday.
Yeah. Oh, when I got to the curling club on Monday for the match at 1:30 in the afternoon, everybody is looking at me. So anything happened today?
No. Quiet, Dan. Quiet.
It's like it happened while we were on air.
Yeah.
So, all right. Let's see. Well, let's start with that.
Well, I wanted to examine the questions that I posed in the title. Is Canada broken? Is Parliament broken? And you and I both know, no, it's not.
No. Right.
It isn't. It's not even close. But there are people who have been suckered by Pierre Poilievre into believing that. And I feel bad for those folks because they've been gaslit by the leader of the opposition, the loyal,
Huh?
the leader, the loyal leader of the official opposition, or as I like to call it, the leader of the opposition, the loyal opposition leader, the LOL, because that's a double entendre, right?
I like the Lou,
Lou,
leader of the official opposition.
leader of the official opposition, yeah. The Lou.
The Lou.
As you know, in the UK, they say Lou when you need to go to toilet.
I'm a sticky monkey.
He's the Lou or the LOL. Either way, he's somebody who's trying to take power at any by any means necessary, and that is not good. And he's gaslit Canadians by lying to us for 20 years, and he's really ramped up the lying over the last 3 since, you know, the and here's the thing, I have to preface this with, let's get a nugget of truth in this. When the occupation of Ottawa took place, people showed up with Pierre Poilievre for prime minister on flags on their trucks. And a lot of people said he had flags made. I go, we don't know that to be true.
No.
Anybody can go and get a flag made. So we don't know that to be true, that he had them made.
He certainly picked up the design because he put it on his shirts.
He wasn't the leader at the time. Aaron O'Toole was. Mm-hmm. And then it was Candace Bergen. Crazy Candace Bergen. Okay, and look, as somebody who's
not
crazy,
the one we like.
I think I feel entitled enough to label when somebody else is, okay?
Let's just put it this way. It's not the Candace Bergen we like.
No, it is not. No, it is not.
Because if she were a little more like Murphy Brown.
Well, remember, during Zelensky's first appearance in the House of Commons, she stood up and said, "Conservatives will back you all the way. Not Canadians, unlike every other leader."
Indeed. I got
to get another cup of coffee.
Sure thing.
I apologize. It's because I started early on the thing and I'm almost out. I'll be right back. My apologies. I'll be right back. I promise you.
Okay. So because we got a little bit of juicy stuff. So before we get to the juicy stuff, let's say hello to the kids, because we haven't done the magic mirror thing lately. So good morning, Kit Uncover. Thank you for being in the chat with us today. And Kit Lane, dear one. Kit Janet, hey, nice to see you. Good morning to you. Kit Nuna Carol, hello. Lovely to see you among us. Kit Cassie, my dear, hello. And hello to the cowboy as well. Mr. Jim, hey, how are you, my friend? Big hugs to you, and to Mama Lori as well. Who else? Let's see. Kit Toronto Dan, my friend. Hey, hope things are going well for you. Kit Linda M, our original and the best here on the podcast. Hello. Mac Works, good morning to you. Lovely to see you today. Thanks for dropping in. And who else do we have? Pop up on the chat if you want your hello. Kit Tavi G and Kit Playing with 3D. Hello to both of you. So nice to see you here with us today. Mike H, morning. Just popping in. Hope you get some sunshine to your day. Mon frère, Kit Hugh. Hello, bonjour. J'espère que ça va bien avec toi aujourd'hui. Let's see who else. And that is everybody that got in under the wire. There you go. All right. Kit Toronto Dan says, all good, likewise. And everybody's greeting everybody today in the chat. The best damn fam in all of podcasting. All right. Kids and cubs. Yesterday, well, not yesterday, the day before yesterday, after the meeting happened and everything was sort of left in sort of amorphous blah. We don't really know what's going on or what the next step is. The Prime Minister attended a fundraising event, I believe it is. It was at a Liberal fundraiser and, addressed the crowd. It was an address that was maybe about 7 minutes long. And if he was rattled in any way, shape, or form, the Prime Minister did not show it at that time. And I will send some video to Mr. Grizzly here when he gets back, so he might be able to show you a little bit of that later. But he did not seem rattled and phased at all. And then yesterday happened, and it seems that the assessment is that there's about a dozen more. Oh, what is that? The Ottawa Senator's apron. Oh,
Cassie Lake made that for me. She sent it out a while ago, and then Canada Post went on strike. And I guess it sat in the sorting facility, and they went back to work yesterday. We did not expect to receive it yesterday, but it showed up yesterday. So, yeah.
So it was like one day from delivery when the strike hit.
Yeah, like
pretty
literally.
much.
Yeah. So there you go, Cassie. Thank you. I got my Ottawa Senator's apron. It's really, really nice.
It is super cool.
Yeah, it's badass. Oh, and I went with the Senator's theme, so I even have a Senator's hoodie on and Senator's mug. So I figured I'd go all in, you know.
Yes.
Yes. I did need another cup of coffee, but I had to put the apron on so we could, you know.
The Queen Beaver approves
We could debut
both of the Senator fandom and the sartorial choices and the kick-ass apron. Kid Cassie. Damn.
I might have
That's great. You got some talent.
I might have to remove my hoodie, though, because it's damn hot under all these lights in the studio. I'm going to turn on the fans. Just give me a second.
Okay. So, there was some news that came out reporting from the Globe and Mail, again, Fife the Knife, which comes with all the requisite caveats. But on this one, the previous reporting from him was accurate. So there's maybe less reason to be as skeptical about this, but as always, trust but verify. So Robert Fife with Stephanie Levitz and Marika Walsh together combined this. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau told Chrystia Freeland in a Zoom call on Friday that she was going to be replaced as finance minister by former central banker Mark Carney, 3 Liberal sources say. Okay. Before we go any deeper into this, first paragraph, I got questions. We've all seen how loyal she has been to him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we know what an intellectual heavyweight she is. We've all seen these press availabilities. She is standing to the back and the right of him, and she's like, right?
Yes, the whole time.
The whole time? Because all that body language is like, yep, that's it. You preach it, brother. That is right.
Well, for all we know, could be some political theater here because he knows, okay, I'm finished. Why don't we create this thing and then you can run for leader?
Well, that's what I suggested yesterday, right? Because the two mistakes the Democrats say that they had is that she didn't create enough distance from the Biden record. Saying that she's not Joe Biden, she would do things differently in the future, but there's nothing in the last 4 years that she would have done differently. Right? So she's taking all of that record in an election where the public mood is the country's on the wrong track and saying there's nothing about that I would have done different. Out of way too much deference to Joe Biden in this case, which, don't get me wrong, he deserved and earned the deference. Because in any other time with that record, he would have been reelected in a landslide.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right?
Yeah, this is the thing. Is like,
but not in 2024.
Because we live in some bizarro upside down world. I mean, come on, folks. Let's be realistic here. This government has been transformed. You don't have to like Justin Trudeau, the man. or the Prime Minister. You do have to accept the fact that this government of Canada, because he doesn't call it the Trudeau government. Some people refer to it as that. Stephen Harper referred to it as the Harper administration, which is very American.
After 2 years of referring to it as Canada's new government.
Yes. It's the government of Canada, right?
No matter whose the party is.
Correct. And this government of Canada has been transformative. It's lifted more children out of poverty. It's been the only government in Canadian history to actually make an effort and follow through and damn near lift every single drinking water advisory on every res across the country. It has been the first government to institute dental care, which millions of people have signed on for. Pharmacare, and it doesn't cover enough. You don't start by giving people everything right away, because you can't do that. You have to roll these things out. Anybody who's ever rolled out a program at any point in their life of any type knows you don't give 100% right away. You can't. You have to roll it out slowly. This is how things are done properly. What happened during the start of COVID when they rolled out CERB? They did it super fast and got it to as many people as possible. And it was a very well executed program. People said, look, they can institute things quickly. Yes. And there was fraud.
Look at the Auditor General reports coming out now.
Yes.
But we knew that going in. Said that we're going to do it fast. There are going to be some mistakes like this, and we will try to recuperate after. But right now, it's like we can't spend 32 weeks designing the perfect program. No. People got to eat now.
Exactly.
Because you all lost their jobs now.
That's right. Like, people were sent home. Stay home. You can't go to work. There is no work to be had. Companies can't pay you because they have no revenue stream. I know. I was a victim of that. Even lifelong staunch conservatives who are all about fiscal conservatism have said to me it was the right thing to do at the right time because people needed it, period. Yeah, we know there's going to be mistakes made. We know there's going to be money lost. We know there's going to be fraud. We know that. But you cannot go with, well, some people will get it who don't need it, so we're not going to do anything. You can't go with that mentality when it comes to keeping people afloat.
During a crisis, yeah, you can't.
You can't do it that way. Feed everybody, even the ones who don't need it.
Yeah,
feed
then
everyone.
Figure it out.
Feed everyone. We'll figure it out when the crisis has ended. That was transformative.
Mm-hmm.
The $10 a day daycare has been transformative in a way they didn't even expect to see. The results have already shown us how quickly women have come back to the workforce.
Well, and plus, in terms of implementing it, they gave it a certain amount of time, and there's certain provinces that are already all there.
Yes. And it was an easy decision to make, even though they had to fight to get it. And we almost had it under Jack Layton, but he decided to side with Harper and killed that program. So thanks, Jack. Yes, I'm not going to dump on his grave because he was a good man who made honest mistakes, but he screwed the pooch on that one. We knew it worked because Quebec proved to us that it did. It has put way more money into the economy than it ever took out. Ever. It's not even close. Economists around the world have studied this program and said, this is how it's done. So this government has been transformative. At any other time in history, it wouldn't even be a competition. At any other time in history, we would have, well, we never had the fairness doctrine in Canada, but we didn't have foreign ownership of our media, which would paint a picture of, we don't like this guy because he's spending our money. Let's support the conservative guy because he's in our pocket. Well, we don't know that he is, but it's funny how he only leans to one or two particular media companies when he wants to grant a one-on-one interview.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can paint the picture.
Yep. Indeed. So I am reading this first paragraph. Your most loyal person, your intellectual powerhouse, She's been your deputy prime minister the entire time. After Bill Morneau left, she came in. She's been your finance minister there. She got you through pandemic.
Yes.
And look, inflation numbers came in yesterday. 1.9, down from 2.0, 0.1%. Shelter, food came in under expectations, which is good for inflation. I guess a normal inflation report, it went up or down 0.1 rather than like 0.4 or 0.5 or shooting up like we used to. The soft landing appears to have been executed. Bank of Canada just cut another 50 basis points. They cut a full 1% over the last 2 months. This is her.
Well,
and he lets her know by Zoom, not in person, by Zoom. And it seems the way that this is phrased is, "Hi, Christia. Mark Carney will be coming in and coming to finance. So we've created this US thing like this because you were so good last time, and we're putting you there. Okay? And that's going to happen. So you're going to go out and you're going to read that report that says $61.2 billion deficit this year when you promised 40.1, even though most of this is one-time legal liabilities and COVID adjustments. So, I mean, nothing really you could do about that. The bill comes due when the bill comes due. And when you're talking about the stuff for Indigenous related, it seems that the government made a lot of decisions not to take certain things to court and to take the hit now. So, people are going like, so my grandchildren are going to pay for this. Yes, so that your great-grandchildren won't have to pay more when you finally get around to doing the right thing 20 or 30 years from now. Because when you do other people wrong, the bill eventually comes due.
Well, and let's also consider, my grandchildren are going to pay for this. Yes, and it was caused by your grandparents. So shut your pie hole.
Your grandparents should have paid for it.
Yes. Now, I know there's massaging around that fact, right?
Yes.
It's supposed to be $40 billion guardrails. It's $62 billion. $41 billion was the number, the $20 billion payout to which is an agreed upon thing previously. I know everybody wants to put that on a separate balance sheet, and I get it. It is a one-time thing. It
needs to be expensed. Accounting rules, it has to be expensed in full in 1 year at some point.
And I
How you
understand
adjust for it later on, you can do over time, but you got to report it at some point.
I understand that, but it's like you got the right side of the ledger. People are screaming about how it's 20 billion over, and the other side's going, well, that 20 billion goes here. We knew this was coming, whether it was on this one or the next one or one after. It was going to happen regardless. So you can massage it any way you like to make it look good or make it look bad, because both sides are going to do that. It's a $20 billion expense that was going to be made no matter what. Whether it was this year or next year, it was happening. Period. It was happening.
And the other thing too, it's a legal thing.
Yes.
Which can happen to any government of any stripe at any time. That's why they're one-time things. That's why economists also told us that if you do comparables, what was last year and what was this year, minus the one-time extraordinary things when bills come due. 40.1 was predicted, 40.8 was realized. It's literally a rounding error. They got it they pretty much nailed it. They pretty much nailed it. So, but as you can tell, it doesn't matter that it's a one-time thing because people just hear the 60 number and you blew it.
Yeah.
By 50%. And then you got other people like Goldie Hyder. Sorry. You must have felt that eye roll going all over TV and say, well, she knew it was coming. She should have adjusted. Yes. Because when you know that there's a one-time $20 billion or $15 billion thing coming, you just immediately cut $15 billion in that calendar year from something else. or from a whole bunch of other things to adjust for that. Just like, if you are a single parent with 2 children who makes $55,000 a year and suddenly you need to buy a new car, you just stop eating in that month that you buy that car.
Mm-hmm.
Or the rest of the calendar year, because you can't spend more than 55,000 because credit is not a thing that you should access when you take a big hit, and in order to spread that out, the cost of that new car over several months, right? You need to fix that all in that one calendar year.
Mm-hmm.
Run government like a household budget. Hi, Johnny. The carburetor blew, so we need a new car. So, that little sandwich you're having is just gonna have to come back here, okay? We got to make this last.
Well, if your carburetor's
said no
blown,
parent
your car's
ever.
probably 40 years old because everything is fuel injection.
I know, but you know what?
Pedantry.
I know, but it's like said no parent ever,
Yeah, exactly.
right? No,
Yeah.
we're gonna eat. Yeah, we'll do what we have to do. So, I mean, these are positions that are just not serious.
Mhm.
It's like, and I'm sitting there, I was like, Mr. Hyder, and everybody was making this comment. These types of, like, this is just not serious. It's like, your time is precious, my time is precious. Please don't waste it.
Yeah.
Public airwave time has value. Don't go on there to say like, oh yeah, well, she saw it coming. She should have just made the adjustment on the fly so that she could still hit her $40.1 billion. No, that's not how one-time expenses work. Especially when you're a government and you have an eternal timeline and really favorable borrowing rates. Dude, come on. But yeah, he let her know by Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a prime minister who has a reputation for having extremely good people skills, at least as a campaigner, who did not seem to either took his relationship with her for granted. Yeah, I could just call her up by Zoom and tell her, here, I'm moving you here. She'll be all right with it. And she turned around and said, I think you have just made the fatal mistake of mistaking me for someone who does not respect herself, sir. Because I don't know about you, but I know if I had served someone that loyally for that long and they let me know by Zoom, they weren't at least taking me out to a real fancy lunch and buttering me up before dropping the bomb, I would be pissed.
Yeah.
Now imagine, and that's just doing my regular job for you. Now imagine the job is being the person on the world stage that Putin hates and that Trump says is a terrible person and that receives, I think, like 70% of all the online hate directed to female politicians in Canada. And you let her go by Zoom?
Yeah.
Dude, we need to talk about your people skills. Because to me, that looks like you thought you had it like that, and you found out you didn't. Now, remember that, because there's some behavior that's been happening. If that is the case, then Christopher Freeland showing up at that fundraiser
To a standing ovation.
to a standing ovation was something. And then Christopher Freeland going to the caucus office party last night, where apparently she entered with a whole bunch of supporters around her. You could just see this, right? Like if this was a rap video, she'd be like entering into the club, slow motion, wind in the hair going, with everybody dressed up at the Look at Us club look, taking the center booth, flossing, champagne, popping, apparently to the right of the stage, described as holding court. People wanting to talk to her, entering with an entourage like this while, all this stuff is going on. So she's out there living her best life, and the prime minister has not spoken publicly since this has happened, and neither has she. And somebody put a microphone in her face, it seems, during the evening, and it was something like, "I'm just enjoying a wonderful night with all of my colleagues. Thank you." I think we know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Not now. That's the politest "not now," and back off. So
Remind me again, how many years was Stephen Harper prime minister for? 9 or 10?
Close to 10.
Close to
I
10.
think maybe just under 10.
Yeah, and during that term, he prorogued Parliament 4 times.
Yes. This one has prorogued Parliament not once yet, I believe.
Yeah. No, he hasn't. He did it in 2008, 2007, 2008, 2009, and again in 2013.
Once a year for 3 years.
Yeah.
Once a year for 3 years.
So the first time he did it, in 2007, he stated his government had completed its 5 post-election priorities and needed a reset.
That was a lie.
Yeah.
The health wait times guarantee thing never really happened, didn't it?
No. In 2008, he did it to avoid a confidence vote in the House, outrage over removal of right to strike and party funding. In 2009, to avoid the Afghan detainee debate. And in 2013, to avoid exposure to the Senate expense scandal, PMO cover-up of the same.
The scandal for which somebody was tried
and convicted
for accepting a bribe, but nobody was tried for offering one.
Funny how that works.
Only in Canada, you say?
Well,
good day.
You've already commented on this one, so I'm going to put it on the screen right now because this is just, I think this just plays into it. It's a thing of beauty. If you haven't seen this yet, watch this, folks. This is just captivating.
But the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition also maybe gave us a chance to get to know him a bit better. What would he do instead? He mentioned he'd met a waitress. He's known me a long time. I was a waitress. I waitressed for more than a decade, couldn't afford to go to university, but only in Canada was it possible that for me to go to law school as a mature student. I want to ask the Honourable Member, since I didn't join a political party until I was over 50, what jobs has he held in real life, outside of politics, that make him think he could be Prime Minister?
I mean,
he is coming for him.
She does not give a fuck.
She is coming for him.
Oh, yes. She is, because she recognizes how dangerous he is to our sacred system.
And she loves Canada. Remember, she was born in the United States, right?
Yeah, yeah.
She chose Canada, and she loves Canada. So she's not having him do that.
She's the classic Green Party. A conservative who gives a shit about the environment.
And institutions.
Yes, an actual progressive.
Remember when the Conservative Party in Canada was the defender of institutions?
Yeah.
That was their brand? Rather than the dismantler?
Yeah.
The institutions were built to conserve our way of life. So the Conservatives supported the institutions?
Well, the dismantling largely began under Brian Mulroney.
Yep. All right, back to the article. The sources say Mr. Trudeau was direct in the call, telling her that by Tuesday morning, she would no longer be finance minister and the job would be handed to Mr. Carney, former governor of the Bank of Canada and Bank of England. The prime minister still expected her to deliver the economic and fiscal update on Monday that showed she would miss the government's promised $41.1 billion deficit target by more than $20 billion. And as Chantal Hébert pointed out, thus making it look like you are being fired for having blown it by so much. Now, clearly that would not be the case, but that would certainly be the narrative that would be going on from the people like Spencer Fernando, who yesterday had nothing but elogious things to say about Christopher Freeland, or Anita Poilievre, who called her a good woman. That she was a woman who was good enough, when there is nobody in the conservative benches since she's been around who's ever said that she's been good enough for anything. And, well, we won't even talk about the other person. Because, come on. Really? From you? Really? Okay. Ms. Freeland resigned Monday morning before delivering the update. It's like, no, thank you. I think I will not take that hit. The Globe and Mail is not identifying the Liberal Party sources who are not authorized to publicly discuss what transpired in talks between Mr. Trudeau and Ms. Freeland. Mr. Carney did not take up the offer after Ms. Freeland resigned Monday. So, lost his loyal finance minister, and the person he bumped her for ultimately did not take it. Now, this raises the question, did he actually have Mr. Carney locked up before he asked? Because that does not sound.
And that's not who was sworn in.
Well, yes, eventually. Exactly, because Dominic LeBlanc was not. So when Freeland said, I'm resigning, I thought, oh, well, is this a sign that he actually got Mark Carney?
Yeah.
But then Mark Carney did not step up. So it's like, normally before you tell someone you are moving them out of their position, you've locked down the person who is coming in. Not this guy, I know this guy's going to come in, so I'm going to move you. Okay, now I've moved you. Guy, are you coming in? No. You lock the guy down. So he is coming in. Therefore, I am moving you. So apparently he said that to her, but clearly he did not have him locked down, because once the room was open, he did not come.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is there some grand strategy that they're going to make the announcement later when they actually have the full shuffle? Because the other thing they could have done very quietly is just shuffled everything and just. But clearly, there is going to be a shuffle, and either he wants the bang for the buck, or he's announcing that he's leaving, and the person that would follow would do the shuffle and put their own mark on it, stamp on it. Because last thing you want is two shuffles before going into an election.
Indeed.
And if you plan to leave, you probably don't want to saddle the new person with the team that you just reorganized on your way out.
I don't think a damn thing is going to happen until after the foreign interference report is released to the public.
Mm-hmm. Now,
and then things could get really interesting.
Yes. The Prime Minister named Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc, close friend, as Finance Minister. In a resignation letter, Ms. Freeland cited concerns about unnecessary spending and the best approach to deal with incoming President Donald Trump's America First economic agenda, including his promised tariffs on 25% of Canadian exports to the United States. It is unclear whether Mr. Carney had accepted the initial offer to join the government. All signs point to no. Two sources close to Mr. Carney strongly suggested over the weekend that he was not willing to be part of the government, even though he did not immediately close down discussions. Globe and Mail is not identifying the sources, so they would speak freely about Mr. Carney's deliberations. Mr. Carney was not immediately available to respond to questions from the Globe and Mail about the offer of becoming Prime Minister. I guess not. As a PR guy, I will tell you that if they're talking about you, but you're not actually one of the parties involved, you put on that invisibility cloak and you go for a nice long walk. Duct tape over your mouth. It's like, while other people are imploding, stay quiet. They may be talking about you, but if you didn't do any of the actions about which people are talking about, shut the fuck up and be the calmest, quietest, cutest version of yourself.
What's the old saying? Better to have people think you a fool than to open up your mouth and confirm it.
And also, never interrupt an enemy when they're imploding. You may get caught in the blast when it happens.
Yes.
Oh my God, he's doing terrible. Let's give him an extra push. He grabs your arm and you both go over the cliff. It's like, no. If this guy's going over the cliff, just wait. See how it works out. Maybe you don't have to do anything and you're rid of an opponent.
Well, I mean, everybody's jumping to rapid conclusions here, and I can understand why, because they need to sell newspapers, they need clicks, they need media attention, they need time. I don't think anything is imploding, to be completely honest with you. I think this is all part of a grander scheme and a bigger plan, because these are not stupid people. Chrystia Freeland is not a stupid woman. This is all part of a bigger plan. It's all political theater. What they're doing, I don't know. We're all going to find out eventually. But something tells me that if the PM decides to step down, he won't be doing it until the new year, number one. Nope. Number two, does she assume the position as deputy PM? I don't know. Probably. Do they have a new leadership race or leadership convention? I don't know. There's a lot of things at play here. I'm not panicking for any of it. And here's why. Nothing's happened yet. Don't panic until it's time to panic. And when is it time to panic? Only if Poilievre forms government. Then it's time to panic. And here's what we have to panic about. Hanging on to that which we've gained and not losing any of it. That's what we need to panic about. Keeping the things we have. Equality, pharmacare, dental care, childcare, the school lunch program, same-sex marriage, a woman's right to choose. Those are the things we need to panic about possibly losing if Poilievre forms government. That's what we'd have to panic about. But don't panic until it's time to panic. And even then, we've got lots of runway to prepare for all of this.
Yep. A senior government official would not discuss the negotiations with Mr. Carney or what role he was offered to join the government. The official said Mr. Trudeau had great respect for Ms. Freeland and described a number of programs she was involved with, including $10 a day childcare. The official noted that Mr. Trudeau and Ms. Freeland hugged each other at Monday's Liberal caucus meeting. Again, there does not seem to be animus, which leads credence to the theory that something must be up. The official would not say whether there's going to be a cabinet shuffle Wednesday to fill 8 portfolios as a result of ministerial resignations and plans by some other ministers to not run again in the next election. The Globe is not revealing the source who was not authorized to discuss negotiations with Mr. Carney and cabinet changes. In a resignation letter, Ms. Freeland said she was stepping down after Mr. Trudeau informed her on Friday that he no longer wanted her to be his top economic minister. The two Liberal sources said the Prime Minister offered Ms. Freeland a cabinet portfolio on Canada-US relations, but without any ministry attached. That meant she would have no departmental public service staff or statutory authority to deal with the incoming Trump administration. The sources said she regarded the offer as a demotion. However, the senior government official characterized the Canada-US role as a major responsibility for dealing with the Trump administration that takes office in January. On Tuesday, Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet said Mr. Trudeau has no legitimacy left to govern and must call an election in January. Of course he would. The Bloc leader said with Mr. Trump threatening tariffs that could harm the Canadian economy, the unstable situation faced by the governing Liberals cannot be allowed to stand. Quote, if he wants to stay where he is now, he needs a mandate, and he does not have one as we speak, Mr. Blanchet told reporters speaking in English. Ms. Freeland's departure reignited calls from the Liberal backbenches for Mr. Trudeau to step down as leader, but Mr. Blanchet said would not solve the problem. The result would be the same government negotiating with Mr. Trump. That's not enough, he said in French. So I don't know what he's saying if he says if it can't be the government, it can't be the prime minister. Who does he want? The Conservatives? Because he certainly can't stand Poilievre.
No,
So
he can't
Mr.
stand
Lass
that
is a
well.
little inconsistent here in his statements.
I don't think he wants to be in the same room as Poilievre, to be honest.
No, he doesn't. Because just wait till the debate. He's going to be he's going to bopping him on the nose with a rolled up newspaper all the entire time. You'll watch that. That's one thing I can predict. Industry Minister François-Philippe Champagne, who apparently didn't want to touch reading that report in the House with the 10-foot pole, which is why Karina Gold simply tabled it, because he's the Deputy Minister of Finance. And, well, it would fall onto him to read this. It's like, no, thank you. I would rather not either. Characterized what happened between Mr. Trudeau and Ms. Freeland as an internal party issue and said the focus for the government must now be to get ready for the new U.S. president. Quote, what happens internally about how we organize ourselves, that's a discussion that happens in caucus, he said. But what I'm saying is that whilst there may be discussion, we need to focus on really preparing. What is happening in Canadian politics, however, has caught Mr. Trump's eye. In a social media post last Monday, he referred to Ms. Freeland's behavior as toxic and not conducive to making deals for Canada. She will not be missed, he wrote. At least 13 Liberal MPs have now publicly called for Prime Minister to step down. Helena Jasic, Patrick Weiler, Wayne Long, René Arsenault, Chad Collins, Sean Casey, Anthony Housefather, Francis Drouin, Ken Hardy, Serge Cormier, Alexandra Mendes, Ken McDonald, and Ivan Baker. Or Ivan Baker. I'm not sure if he goes by Ivan or Ivan.
I don't know.
Helena Jasic, by the way, if you ever saw the clip, and I wish I had saved it. She looks like your lovely aunt who bakes the best pies, right? And speaks like her too. And basically said something like, to do that in that way to someone that was so valued is not a sign that you are trustworthy, and walked. Ouch.
Well, the House just, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they vote to break for Christmas yesterday?
Not voted. It's just that was the schedule already.
I think
they have
they
to
actually
adjourn.
have a vote on it actually this time.
They have. Yeah, I think they have to vote to adjourn, but that type of stuff. But I mean, yesterday was scheduled to be the last sitting day. Correct,
but they had a vote to adjourn, and there were a lot of people who said no.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Was it just a voice vote?
No. It was. It's recorded. It's in the Hansard. I saw the numbers, and I was like, "Whoa!" A lot of people did not want to adjourn.
That's probably
I wonder who that was.
I wonder if it might have been the Conservatives doing that pretend thing they do, because we're going to work all throughout the Christmas holiday. We're going to work all throughout the summer. Oh, what? We could go 3 days earlier? Yeah, sure. Let's vote for that.
All right, let's see. Look over here. Look over here. Look over here. Do not look over there. Look over here, not over there. Over here, right here. See what we're doing right here? This is what we're going to do. Don't look over there. Don't look, because we exited stage left.
Yes. So 928 motion to adjourn the House. 177 yes, 140 nays. And let's see if we go by party affiliation. All the Liberals voted to adjourn. All the Conservatives voted not to adjourn. The Bloc Québécois voted to adjourn. See, that's where you know. Bloc Québécois, we're voting with every confidence motion with the Conservatives to take down the Liberals, so long as we know that the NDP won't vote them down either.
Exactly.
Because the Liberals are terrible. Oh, Christmas holiday? Sure, we'll adjourn.
You know damn well. They have, look, you know damn well. For those of you who don't know how Parliament works, most of the members of Parliament, with the exception of all of the Conservatives, because Pierre Poilievre has written on high that you cannot consort, conversate, or spend time with a member of any other party. But I guarantee you the NDP, the Liberal, the Bloc, and the Green, there's what, 2 Green members?
Yes.
2 Green.
One now.
One now, okay. I guarantee you, they all get together and talk to one another. They have strategic voting. So the Bloc would say, okay, we're going to vote with them. You guys are going to vote with them? Yeah, okay, cool. This way it's an appearance. It's all theater, man.
Okay.
It's all theater.
There are 2, but there was only 1 vote from the Greens because there are 2 MPs. So yeah, it seems the
No,
Liberals
Dylan,
and the
it's not a
Bloc.
liberal stream. We're political commentators. It's not a liberal stream. Just want to tell you that, okay? Up front, neither one of us belong to a political party. Actually, Mr.
Nope.
Beaver
Right now, I
was
don't
a
know.
member. No, I know, but you were.
Yes.
You did have membership in the Conservative Party of Canada.
1 year.
Just to give you that heads up. No, we are not liberals. We're not conservatives. We are people who comment on political parties and politics in Canada. And if you tuned in actually after we discussed, and I was critical of the $20 billion extra and how it's being painted on one side of the fence as this is $20 billion over budget, and the other side of the fence is going, well, this $20 billion was coming out no matter what. This $20 billion to the Indigenous settlement was coming out no matter what. I just wanted to set the record straight on that because you missed that part. So that's all there is to it. Let's carry on, sir. Carry on.
All right. So, now in this case, the NDP did what the Bloc Québécois is doing on the confidence motions, given that they knew that the Bloc Québécois certainly wanted to go for Christmas. The NDP voted with the Conservatives to say, no, let's stay. And then the Green Party MP Mike Morris did. Elizabeth May does not have a recorded vote. And one independent MP, Kevin Vuong, of course, who loves to stick it to this party because this party kicked him out really early on for good reason. So, so the Liberals and the Bloc basically said, yeah, we're going for Christmas, and everybody else, with the possible exception of Mike Morris, who I always believe to be of good intent. Everybody else put on a big show of pretending that they wanted to stay and keep it going to keep the government to account, even though they all have families to go to as well. Anyway, but like I said, that's the showmanship part of it, right? So we have this situation now where, and this is information I said I would look for you yesterday. The House does not reconvene until January 27th.
Correct.
Meanwhile, if you live in Ontario, it seems that Doug Ford has decided that he needs another 11 to 12 weeks after working hard for 5 full weeks after having 19. Yeah. But they've already risen, by the way.
Yeah.
Just so you know. But hey, life in Ontario. He's too busy campaigning to be prime minister.
Well, that is
right now to run Ontario. It seems.
A corrupt former hash dealer wants to become prime minister. That's not accusatory. That is fact. It's well documented. He was a hash dealer.
Dream big, Canadians. Dream big, Canadians.
Yeah.
Dream big.
Well, only in Canada.
Again, only in Canada, you say? Pity.
Only in Canada.
Yes. So you have. God, I forgot. I was transitioning there. I got too funny.
Let's address some more budgetary issues here. I have something I want to talk about.
I wanted to
directly related to this. No, I got to talk about this. I got to get it off my mind because it's directly related to budgetary expenses. $1.4 billion is going towards CBSA and border security, correct?
Yes.
Okay, now let's take a look at something yesterday that was a video. I got two things here to show you, and we can continue to talk about this because this is important because this is the gaslighting that Pierre Poilievre will give you. First off, let's have a look at this.
Conservatives were in place under the Harper Conservatives. The Harper regime had a terrible record when it came to selling out this country. Almost 1,200 frontline positions, which have led, of course, to the kinds of problems that we're seeing now at the border. And that is the nux of the problem, Madam Speaker. This conservative inaction, conservative cuts, have made our border less secure. Will a single conservative stand up and apologize for what they did in devastating...
Okay, so that's the first clip. Now let me show you a second clip as soon as I can end this one because it's really noisy. The second one is this one. It's Pierre Poilievre being Pierre Poilievre. And this just sums up for you his smugness and his attitude towards being asked a question.
Edouard Moussa with CBC News. And Mr. Poilievre, if you could also answer this question in French as well as English. The government is coming out with a $1.3 billion plan to address border security. Do you think that's enough to stop Trump's tariffs? And if it was up to you, how much specifically would you spend on border security? What number would you put on it?
Well, you ask a classically CBC question, which is how much money can you spend on a problem? Well, that's the wrong question. That's exactly the question Trudeau has been asking for 9 years. It's the reason he's doubled our debt while making everything worse. You know, for example, he spent $80 billion on housing affordability. Well, how'd that work? He doubled housing costs. He spent $60 million on his gun confiscation. 0 guns. He spent millions on a school food program that hasn't served a single solitary meal. So we should not judge a program based on how expensive we can make it. We should judge it by what it can do. How many helicopters? How many drones? How many boots on the ground? That's the question I will be asking when I'm Prime Minister. And how do we deliver it for the lowest possible price to taxpayers? Wouldn't it be nice if we had a Prime Minister who said, we secured the borders, we put more boots on the ground, we stopped tons and tons of fentanyl from traveling back and forth, we arrested the terrorists, we shut down the organized crime, we reduced gun crime, and by the way, we did it with less tax dollars. That's how our mentality has to change. We have to stop judging politicians by how expensive they can make things and start judging them by the results they get. You went into a restaurant and had a terrible experience. The food was awful. You got food poisoning. The service was bad. You wouldn't walk out and say, but it was great because it cost me $1,000. And because it's the most expensive restaurant around, it must be the best. No, we judge the meal by the food on the plate and the service that delivered it. That's how I'm going to run a common sense.
Okay, so not only did he tell some ridiculous long tales in that, but he didn't answer the goddamn question. And he's like, that's a typical CBC question. How much money will you throw at the problem? So contrast that with the previous one where they cut 1,100 jobs from border, from CBSA. Then he's asked, how much money will you spend to fix the problem? Well, that's a CBC question. How much money can you throw at a problem? I'm going to build the homes. The man has no plan whatsoever. None. As evidenced by when he was in government, they cut border security. And then he talked about stop the tons of fentanyl. There were 40 pounds. 40 pounds of fentanyl. Now, that's not little because a few milligrams of fentanyl will kill somebody. It's not little, but it's not tons. The hyperbole and bullshit out of this guy's mouth is astounding. And I get all politicians lie, but this guy doesn't know how to tell the goddamn truth about anything, let alone answer the frigging question. He can't do it. He's incapable of it. 20 years he's been in that house. 20 years. What has he accomplished in 20 years? And people want to hand the reins of power to this guy? He never had a real job. This is all he's ever done. He has no concept of what working people go through. Zero. He's never lived in the world that you and I live in. Not since he was a child. So how can people rationally think that this is the guy for the job? The guy who refuses to answer a basic question and skates around it and spews a whole bunch of bullshit. Won't even answer a simple budgetary question. And you want to give the reins of power to this man? You want this guy in charge of the budget? He can't even answer a simple question. His government cut when he was in power. The current government is about to rebuild it. And he won't even answer the question on what it would cost. This is just ridiculous. Actually, to answer a question here, we have to remember, compare and contrast. This man has never had a real job. Contrary to what people think that Justin Trudeau is a trust fund baby, his trust fund's about $1 million. And he actually did work as a snowboard instructor, a bouncer, and a school teacher after going to get his education. So one has lived in the real world and worked a real job. One has not. One has governed. One has not. Which guy do you think is better for the job? Take away your hatred for a man who's been in power for 9 years and just down to brass tacks, which one is better for the job? And I'm not saying I'm supporting the current prime minister, because there's a lot of things he's done that I don't care for, but he's done a lot of good. It has been a transformative government. But if you want to put that guy in power, I mean, seriously, you're not paying attention. This man who flip-flops on everything from 1 minute to the next, if it will win him the nanosecond. We need people to pay attention. Pay attention to what is going on. Pay attention to how this world works. Pay attention to the fact that he says he's going to lower grocery prices just like Trump did. And what did Trump just say the other day? He walked that one back. Oh, no, once the prices go up, it's really hard to make them come down. This man is not going to do a damn thing for Canadians. He will harm the most vulnerable, the most marginalized, the poor, the working class, and the middle class. But if you're rich, you'll be doing okay. And that's my monologue.
Log.
I wanted to say monogram, but no, monologue for the day. I had to get that out. I'm sorry, I couldn't hold on to it any longer. The floor, sir, is yours.
Okay. Good points. I mean, and Saucy, Kit Saucy, if you are in the chat, if you want to use the wrench, please do.
If you feel you need to. If you feel you need to.
There's a person that appears to believe that they think it's their duty to program our show.
We leave
and to have some very firm opinions about what it is that we know based on about 15 minutes of being here. So yeah, if you, that's not the house rules of our chat. We don't come in here and try to dominate by pissing all over each other. We actually try to have actual exchanges when we have different opinions that are respectful. So there are house rules, but yeah, the spamming, gotta go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You're not the star. You're not the star of the show, sir. Or ma'am. Because
we don't know. Dylan can go either way, that name. You know.
Well, yeah. Well, number one, but number two, I mean.
Yeah.
It's an online name.
It's an online name, so we don't
could be anyone. So there we go.
Could be a Pierre Poilievre for all we know.
Who knows? Yep.
That would be funny.
Really? Jeez. All right, kids and cubs. Let's see, what else do we have? Well, since we talked a little bit about Canada Post, since Mr. Grizzly has his apron, the Canadian Postmasters, it seems that there might be some more stuff going on, because the Canadian Postmasters and Assistants Association, which represents rural Canada Post employees, said that they were having a dispute with Canada Post that was not going anywhere as well. So the one that was resolved was with the CUPW, the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, but this is the Canadian Postmasters and Assistants Association. And well, it seems that they have a dispute with Canada Post, but it looks like they're going to go to arbitration rather than disrupt service at the moment. So Canada Post in this case will not lock out workers, and the union will not strike. Rural post offices will remain open. Now, Ottawa intervened in the Canada Post strike, asking the Industrial Relation Board of Canada to see if there was any role for it, and it did order the workers to go back to work with the usual cries, oh, you're crushing workers' rights and all that kind of stuff. And yes, you want the bargaining process to happen all the way through like it would, but it had been over 4 weeks, and the mediator had actually left the table because the parties were not doing what needed to be done. Now, in this case, from what we hear, it seems that the culprit here might have been Canada Post, knowing that for a very essential thing, since they've seen it done twice before, that if they just went, when a child really wants Fruit Loops in the cereal aisle and then they fall on the floor and just go limp, and you have to try. So yeah, it's looking like Canada Post did just that.
Yeah.
Well, if we just go limp long enough, Christmas holidays, people are going to start wondering about their packages and stuff like that, and they're going to be crying and screaming and whatnot. And, well, we won't have to do anything. Now, of course, Canada Post is also losing a lot of money. So, but it is a service. It's not supposed to turn a profit, but it is losing a lot of money. So therefore, just waiting it out is in their interest, hoping that arbitration means that they will have to pay less. In this case, it is also important to note that the postal workers, at every instance prior to the strike, did everything they could to minimize the impact. They proposed rotating strikes. They, so that things could still flow. And Canada Post said no and locked them out. So it was Canada Post that made the decision that mail service was going to stop, because the Canadian Union Postal Workers were still okay with, taking care of the, most important packages, looking for things that might be medicines and stuff like that, getting them through. And they were not having it. The strike prevented millions of parcels from being delivered, and it hit small businesses in rural parts of Canada rather hard, and in the north particularly. Corrine Pullman with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business says we've estimated that it's approximately $100 million per day that this has been costing small businesses. The union president, Jen Simpson, this is from the Canadian Union Postal Workers, stated, "We have seen this minister and this government use this process too many times to take away workers' rights. This is what Canada Post was waiting for. They were sitting back waiting for intervention because they knew at the bargaining table, as well as arbitration, they could not gut our collective agreements the way they wanted to."
Well, and let's remember that the Canada Post workers were going to have rolling strikes. They weren't going to be shut down completely, because they knew it would hurt people. So what they wanted to do was have rolling strikes. Canada Post management locked them out. So if you want to put the blame on anybody, don't put it on the postal workers. Put it on management that locked them out, because they're the ones who did it, knowing full well it would force the government's hand. That's why they did it. That's why they did it.
Labour Minister Stephen McKinnon had asked the Industrial Relations Board to declare talks at an impasse and order the union back to work. And in this case, that was the case. The talks were indeed at an impasse. There was not going to be any resolution. So packages, mail has started circulating clearly today. Canada Post says it will not be picking up new mail for a little bit yet until there's a backlog, because there's a backlog of at least like 2 million parcels and stuff. U.S. Post, which had ordered its carriers and stuff not to pick up Canadian mail for a while. That'll probably still be delayed for a little bit until they get rid of the backlog and can start processing new stuff. But that should be lifted soon. If you put something in the mail today, they are saying it probably won't get to where it needs to go by Christmas yet, given with the backlog. But eventually, it will all get processed.
This
and
could have been resolved quickly and cleanly, kind of like when the UPS went on strike for, what was it, a day?
Yeah.
A day. They went to management and said, this is what we want. And we want this for our part-time workers, and we want this. And we're going to stay out until you do it. And management went, yeah, no problem. We can afford that. What I don't get with Canada Post upper management is, why are you doing this? You're a Crown Corp. You're a service. If you're losing money, you're the ones losing it, not the guy or gal or person bringing mail to my apartment building. They're doing their job. You're managing it poorly. What's the CEO of Canada Post get paid?
I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
I'm curious, because I'd like to know. Because if they're getting paid 400 times more than the...
No, not in Canada, not 400 times more.
No, of course not. Not for Crown Corp. But either way, they're getting millions.
The salary for the CEO of...
And they do get bonuses too, by the way.
Yes, the average Canada Post executive compensation is $238,026 a year, but that's not the CEO.
No.
I don't know.
And those numbers fall in line with what should be acceptable. $238,000 for an executive. That's not disgusting. I can live with that for a Crown Corp. I don't have a problem with that. That seems to be quite reasonable to me, actually.
The most compensated executive makes $700,000 annually. I would suspect that's the CEO.
Probably. Which would be
there might be another executive that's more valuable, maybe the chief information officer or something. But yeah. Now, So now I have no idea. I can't see anything here. Oh, well, that's 2015. 2015, CEO Deepak Chopra got a $500,000 contract.
Deepak Chopra?
That was the name of the CEO of Canada Post back then.
I didn't know.
Me too. That's because the first answer I got was AI, and I saw Deepak Chopra. I said, well, that can't be right. But apparently it is.
Well, you know what? There's more than one Paul Atkinson in the world, so there would be more than one Deepak Chopra. It's just one is super famous.
Come on. That's like Michael Jackson is so famous that if my last name was Jackson, I had a kid, I would definitely not name them Michael. It's like anything but Michael. It's like, let me have my own identity, please.
Well, and that was a very famous beer sommelier. Is that the right term to use?
Sommelier? That's for wine.
I know, but I'm looking at like the guy who was equivalent in beer. That was actually his name, Michael Jackson.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah. He was very famous, very famous. A beer guy.
I didn't know that. I never heard of him. I didn't even know there was. I mean, now that you say it, it makes sense. Because especially now with all the craft stuff, it's called a cicerone. An equivalent of a sommelier for beer is a cicerone.
There you go, Cicerone. Okay, so even though this is from January last year, even though 2020, this is from Global. Thanks, Ree, for sending me this. I'll read this to you here because this has got some details. Even though 2024 has just begun, Canada's top 100 highest paid CEOs have already made more than the average worker. That's according to a new report released Tuesday by the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. And this is dated January 2nd, 2024. According to CCPA's data, the top CEOs make $7,162 an hour, which means it takes a little over 8 hours for them to make. Well, they don't make, they earn it. $60,607, the annual pay of the average worker in Canada. If we say that both CEOs and workers get paid vacations like New Year's Day, then by Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024, at 9:27 a.m., these CEOs will have already gotten what the average worker makes in a year. Now, trying to find does it list the Crown Corp CEO pay? And I don't see it. The salary portion of the CEO's pay has remained fairly constant, sitting around $1 million a year. It's a long story, and I'm trying to sort through it to get you some numbers here, but I don't see. The top CEOs and workers' average pay went up in 2022 by 4.4%, or $623,000 for the former, and 3%, or $1,800 for the latter, according to the report. I'm trying to find. CEO's pay has gone over the years, approaching 250 times, up from 100 times in the 90s and 50 times in the 1980s. But I do not see where it lists Crown Corp. This is mostly private companies. And Air Canada CEO Michael Rousseau is a little higher on the list than Galen Weston at $12.3 million. Galen, as of January 2nd, his pay compensation was $11.8 million, but he's not in that position anymore. Tony Stavieri is number 4 on the list with a total compensation of $31.5 million. He's the Rogers CEO. Shopify CEO Tobias Lutke is number 6 at over $26 million. Restaurant Brands International CEO Patrick J. Doyle, $151 million in 2022. Yeah, I don't have anything for Crown Corps. It's just all private sector, so it's not telling me what I was hoping it would, unfortunately.
All right. Okay. let's see what else I have for you today. Okay, yes. Oh, yeah. There is that one thing I wanted to mention when we were talking about Chrystia Freeland and Justin Trudeau. You remember the other day I presented to you my hypothesis that this could probably be a staged transition. Similar, thing, 100 days before. In this case, it would be a little more, leading to a transition. And since the Democrats believe that two of the mistakes that they made was not getting started early enough and not having enough distance between the records of the two, that this could be a situation where this is being managed and planned. And the only thing that's giving me this impression is the stuff like, for example, they hugged at the public thing, and that Chrystia Freeland is showing up everywhere. But also, I mean, she's running again, and the release date of her book has been pushed up several weeks. And she enters the Christmas party with an entourage and holds court. Kind of gives the impression that she's definitely making a leadership run. Now, whether or not the Prime Minister is trying to give her a boost, like we mentioned, come on, Chrystia, get a shot in, make it public. Let's go. Or whether or not this is her own initiative. It's like, dude, you tried to dump me by Zoom? Yeah. Oh, hell no. Yeah. This is not, and you want me to read this thing like this? So the other alternative hypothesis that I stumbled upon is from someone who I don't agree with on certain things, and the way that he ends his intervention is something I don't agree with at all. But there are certain elements, whether it's a coordinated thing with the Prime Minister that's staged, or whether or not she is just going out on her own. And again, she's one of the smartest thinkers and one of the better strategists. So, I mean, if you thought it was going to go down like that, Justin Trudeau, it probably isn't. And she probably already had a plan, because Mark Carney has been talking about for a long time, and she enacted it. So remember that scene in the movie The Devil Wears Prada, where Anne Hathaway is trying to get to Miranda's door, to knock on her door, to warn her of something, and turns out, it's like, you think I'm new here? It's like, so this might be that. In this case, it would not have the participation of the Prime Minister, but there are certain elements in this that, whether she does, whether it's staged or whether or not she's doing this on her own, I guess, elements that apply to both that I may have not expressed, but that are pretty clever. So, like I said, this is not entirely my point of view, but it is an interesting take from someone who doesn't particularly like her record. Okay. Why did, and this is Julius Ruchel, I think his name is. Why did Chrystia Freeland resign? In politics, nothing is what it seems. This isn't because of a dispute with Trudeau over tariffs and spending. She resigned because she's making a play for his job while simultaneously outflanking Mark Carney. Let me explain the elaborate game that I think is afoot. The whole world can see Trudeau's star is fading. Even the Canadian dollar is in free fall. His own party wants him gone. Freeland and his deputy PM and finance minister is tied at the hip to Trudeau's sinking ship. Okay, I'm going to have to make some information correction things along the way here. At the time that this was written, this could be the case, but given that Mark Carney didn't actually take the job, maybe not. It maybe wasn't a plan to outflank simultaneously Mark Carney, but maybe still it is. Also, about the dollar in free fall, the dollar at some point this year was as high as 76 cents. Now it's at about 70. It might dip a little bit below, but as we explained earlier on in the year, and this will be interesting if someone is still listening, because we're going to talk economics. When interest rates, there's a gap between interest rates. There's an interest rate spread between Canada and the United States, particularly when the United States dollar happens to be going gangbusters. Well, that affects our dollar. So the fact that we have, we opened up a 75-point interest rate gap with the United States before it started to lower interest rates. And then since then, we've lowered interest rates by another 1 full %. and the United States still hadn't caught up to where we were before we took off another. So we have an interest rate gap of a full percent about with the United States, which is going to make the dollar smaller, which is why we were talking about also on earlier shows. For example, with inflation, even though inflation is at 2% or 1.9 right now, so within the target area, things are still more expensive if the value of the Canadian dollar goes down because we have too large a gap between our interest rates. So that's all that delicate balancing that the Bank of Canada is doing. That's why the Bank of Canada has been sending the message that henceforth the rates cuts might come at only at 25 basis, and they might be maybe just 1.25 for the next year rather than several meetings in a row. So there you go. A little economics talk for those who doubted our ability to actually mention it. So we need to put that little caveat in this thing when he's saying like the dollar's in free fall. The dollar isn't actually in free fall. The dollar's having a normal reaction to interest rate spreads between, of all countries, ours, the United States, the global powerhouse. Rumors were Trudeau was about to fire Freeland as his, quote, fall guy, and Mark Carney was being floated as a replacement or possibly even his. Okay, but here's where things get devious as she uses her resignation as a way to untie herself from Trudeau's sinking ship while simultaneously using it as a way to outflank Mark Carney in the bid for the Liberal leadership. By using a, quote, fiscal dispute as an excuse to resign from his cabinet, even as she stays on as an MP, unlike Bill Morneau in 2020 or Jody Wilson-Raybould in 2019, who both left politics, she's pushing the Trudeau regime's financial disaster back into Trudeau's lap. By preemptively resigning, she's pinning the blame on his incompetent leadership, and he looks ridiculous if he tries to put the blame on her. I would change different adjectives to other ones in there, but the general idea, yes. That is a dynamic. With this bit of theater, she has positioned herself as a comparative voice of reason, expressing concern for Canada's future while insinuating grave doubts about Trudeau's competence. Or in my version, with a bit of theater, they've positioned her as a comparative voice of reason, expressing concern for Canada's future while creating some distance from Trudeau's record. Same idea, little choices of different words, but you can see where I'm reading this and I'm going, this guy is kind of in my head, but like from the darker side of it. Her play prevents Trudeau from scapegoating her as the fall guy. Now he owns what his regime has wrought. This matters for whoever he tries to appoint to replace her. Freeland has essentially triggered a leadership crisis in the Liberal Party. By resigning in this dramatic manner, refusing to be part of his cabinet going forward, but staying on as an MP, she has outflanked Trudeau's efforts to pin Canada's death spiral on her. He doesn't get a fresh start by firing her and then appointing someone to replace her. But she does. Or hope she does. Meanwhile, anyone who is appointed by Trudeau to replace her is tying their career to his sinking ship. Thus, the role of Deputy Prime Minister or Finance Minister has become a hot potato as long as he's captain of the ship. He's left struggling to create a stable cabinet as the rats try to flee his sinking ship. When even his own Deputy PM and Finance Minister have publicly expressed grave doubts about his competence and resigned from his cabinet in protest, it would be kryptonite for the future of the Liberal Party to allow him to lead the party into the next election. He will be forced to resign in the coming weeks, months. Not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
As we mentioned yesterday, he doesn't owe anybody anything because he brought the party from third to first on his own, and there is no mechanism. So really, if he is forced to resign, there's nobody that can force him. It's going to be circumstances. Correct. And that would depend on his ability, also, as we mentioned, to say that, you know what, even though I have won every single fight I have been in politically, maybe I can't win this one. Because right now he's still thinking like he can.
Well, you remember last year he had he has a sit down with Terry DeMonte, former Shom FM morning radio host. He does that every year. They've been doing it for a long time. They've been friends for many, many years. So he sits down, has a couple of beer, and they literally discuss things. And last year he says, no, I'm not stepping down. I'm not going away. Maybe he's had a change of heart this year. Maybe he's discovered that the vitriol that's been thrown at him for the last 9 years, which I think is what destroyed his marriage. Maybe he's going, okay, look, we're going to exit, but let's have a good strategy for this. I don't know. I mean, the people who piled on and said, ha, 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 you're getting a divorce, you are horrible human beings. Why do I know this? Because every single person I know that has gone through a divorce had said, no, divorce sucks. You should never cheer it for anybody. Everybody gets harmed in the process. Even when it's a bad divorce, when somebody's been abusive in one side of that, people still get harmed. Not all divorces are amicable. And I've actually met women in the past who have said, no, it was a radio station here in town that paid for divorce costs. They had a contest for Valentine's Day and paid for somebody's divorce court costs. And the woman who won came forward and said, thank you for this. We really do appreciate it. And yes, my husband deserves this divorce, and he should not suffer, my soon-to-be ex, should not suffer any financial pain because I was horrible to him. She fully said, and she said it on the air. She says, I was terrible to him. So he shouldn't have to suffer for it financially. But everyone suffers in a divorce. And if there's children involved, they suffer the most.
Absolutely.
So anybody to cheer that on, you're a terrible human being.
Prior to her resignation, there were unhappy members, but only one camp, Trudeau's, and Mark Carney was being groomed as his replacement by the entire regime, by the media, and so on. But by preemptively resigning while throwing shade on Trudeau's competence, Freeland has created a rival camp in the Liberal Party. The loyalty of party members is now being split by this rift. Do they stand with him as he sinks or sympathize with her? Already some MPs like Anand have made noises of sympathy towards her. How can they not? And again, sorry, I'm sorry that I have to say these words. As a DEI-obsessed government and with Trudeau's track record of firing female members of his government, this is the part where this person loses me, right? Freeland is now well positioned to pick up the support of MPs trying to distance themselves from Trudeau's sinking ship again for the third time sinking ship. But she's also simultaneously thrown a wrench in Mark Carney's plans. By preventing Trudeau from setting her up as his fall guy, Carney can no longer be brought in as the savior to clean up her mess. We will disagree on whether or not there's a mess.
Well, and where is Mark Carney in all of this?
Again, doing the smart thing, not saying a damn thing, because
staying out of the spotlight.
He didn't fire.
Yeah.
He didn't make the call by Zoom.
No.
He's not the one that had to present a final. They're talking about him. A lot of things seem to be about him, but nothing's about things that he did or said.
Well, and they've been talking about him for the last few years, and he has said vehemently he wants nothing to do with it. Many times he's said that.
Well, yeah. But that's the always playing coy part, especially when the government is working well. But, listen. Again, it's that song Gold Digger again. He's got that ambition, baby. Look at his eyes. This week he's mopping floors. Next week it's the fries. Because Christy Clark's got that ambition, baby, right now. Doug Ford's got that ambition, baby, right now. Pierre's had been thirstily having that ambition for. There's a lot of people who've got that ambition, baby, these days. So, and they're all playing the game differently. But, Carney was intended to be brought in as the savior. Yes. You're not happy with the economy or like this. Look who we got. Former governor of the Bank of Canada, who was so good that the Bank of England poached him for us, and so good that the United Nations made him their special envoy for environment, climate change, and economics together, or all that kind of stuff. And now he's coming, and he will be the finance minister of Canada, appealing to the left because he could tie climate change to the economy, and appealing to the right because he can explain it to the right like they can understand it. Mark Carney, ladies and gentlemen, put your paws up. Whoa. You can see a scenario where you can run from that. Like, this is not the savior to clean up her mess, of which there isn't one, but the savior to come and save the Liberal Party by putting it on a new economic track that's going to bring us to where the puck is going. That was that was the whole, that was going to be the whole push and the whole announcement, right? So savior, yes, we don't agree on the reason. But Carney is Trudeau's special economic advisor. By association, this has now become his mess too. No.
He's not in government.
No, that's the same thing as, you went skiing with David Johnson when you were 12 and he was like, whatever, like this, or you're forever like,
ski buddy.
It's like, no, Mark Carney accepted to be an economic advisor. He gives advice about the economy to cabinet who does stuff with it. He has no bearing whatsoever on the HR relationships and HR management of cabinet. There's none of this is his mess.
And remember, folks, please remember this. This is important because many people might not be aware of this. This is basic civics 101 for federal politics. In Canada, we do not elect, nor have we ever elected a prime minister. We don't.
Okay.
We elect a parliament.
Okay.
It's important that people understand that, though, because many people think, I'm voting for Trudeau or I'm voting for Pierre Poilievre. Unless you live in the riding, you cannot vote for them. We have 338 elections across the country. The party that wins the most seats can form government. The leader of that party can become prime minister. But we don't elect a prime minister. We never have. And I need more people in this country to understand that. You do not vote for prime minister. You can't unless you live in their riding. And the leader of the party, and you live in their riding, and you can vote directly for that person. So if you say you're voting for Pierre Poilievre, I don't know how you're going to do it if you live in BC.
Right. Now, once again, there's another paragraph about, again, cleaning up a mess and tying people to someone's sinking ship. So, guy needs a thesaurus here. Thus, freelance play shrewdly forces Carney to either stay away or rebrand himself as also being critical of Trudeau in order to avoid further tainting himself with Trudeau's toxic, or no. But it does forces Carney to rebrand himself in a certain way, yes. He can't slip smoothly into the role anymore. He either has to become adversarial and publicly critical of Trudeau, like Freeland has, or he goes down with the Trudeau ship before his career in the Liberal Party even gets started. Or, and this is why I hate people that say he either has to be this or this, because there's a third way, or he either says the government did very well to get us where we got now, but now the world is changing, and this is where we need to go, so we need to make these adjustments if we want to be. These are the things we got to change about what we're doing now in 2024 if this is where we want to be in 2050. There's a third way. There's always another way. It's always, he's either got to blame it all on toxic Trudeau and make distance, or he's got to or he can say, good job getting us to where we are now. Yes. Or good job getting us to where we are now. And now this is where we must go. You were the guy to get us where we are now, and I'm the guy to take us where we need to go next. You don't have to poo-poo on the last guy. You don't. There are other ways of making a case. The crisis that Freeland has unleashed with her resignation and public criticism of Trudeau's competence has turned service in Trudeau's cabinet into a career-threatening position. That could indeed, though, be true. As his hold over the party unravels, the probability that someone other than Trudeau will be leading the Liberals into the next election increases dramatically. Instead, we have two rival camps emerging as Trudeau's successor, Carney versus Freeland, assuming Carney wants in. That's only true, assuming Carney wants in. But there will still be more than two rival camps, because I'm sure Champagne wants in, and I'm sure Nantes wants in, and right? And there'll be some person that comes out of the woodwork, out of the outside, that says, you need an outsider. That will probably, because there'll be plenty of camps. Don't worry about that. And Freeland's play positions Carney as inept, Trudeau's hand-picked guy and co-architect of Trudeau's financial disaster. No, that can't happen, because as Mr. Grizzly says, Mark Carney has made so clear for so long, until recently taking the advisor position, that he wanted nothing to do with it. So no, he cannot be Trudeau's hand-picked guy and co-architect of the disaster. The guy who has been very publicly going, no, cannot now be rebranded as the co-architect. Come on. That would be saying like Lucien Bouchard was co-architect of everything that Brian Mulroney did after Bouchard left the party. We know that's not true. After Freeland's grotesque mismanagement, and this is the part where he really, really, really did lose me. After Freeland's grotesque mismanagement, not just mismanagement, but grotesque mismanagement. If our mismanagement is grotesque, what does this guy qualify every other G7 nation? Dude, during her tenure, the idea that she suddenly has misgivings about Trudeau's spending or that she's suddenly growing a conscience is laughable. No, it's not. You forget she was a senior editor at the Financial Times? She's more steeped in economics than he is.
Oh, yeah.
The London Financial Times. May I be precise?
Correct.
As in London, UK, not London, Ontario. Not that there's anything wrong with London, Ontario. They just don't have a Financial Times. That someone of Chrystia Freeland's status would be working for as an editor. Come on, dude. Please. Like, her point is really well made about keeping powder dry, and there are many other people that are saying it, including bankers and economists, leaders of think tanks, and all those. Like, she is not alone. She is far from alone in her position. She could, yes, have misgivings about the future, considering, you know what? Something happened in November in the United States that kind of changed things.
Yeah.
Maybe it shouldn't be businessy. The plan that we had going in, assuming that Kamala Harris would win, is maybe not the plan we need to the future. Maybe we need to make some adjustments. No, let's just keep on doing the same thing. I really think we need to make some adjustments. Yes, she could have sudden misgivings. Things happened in the world, sir. It's not laughable. It's actually very, very plausible. In fact, it would be laughable if there weren't sudden discussions and misgivings about the track that we were on, given just how dramatically the world got turned upside on its head with the US result. It's not laughable. It's actually really reasonable and normal. But this alternate explanation makes a lot more sense. Trudeau's time is ending. The rats are finding ways off ships again, blah, blah, blah. Whether Freeland's elaborate game succeeds is another matter altogether. Her hands are strained. Her play reeks of desperation. Your whole thing is about how cleverly she is outflanking Carney and Trudeau, avoiding, say, whoops, you want to make me the fall guy? Whoops. And Carney, you're coming in? Nope. I'm not coming. Like this is how brilliant she is, and what like this, and you're ending it with her play reeks of desperation.
Yeah.
If it reeks of anything, it seems of like long-term planned, very strategic positioning. But she is a skilled, and notice the choice of words, manipulator. Hello, misogyny.
Mm-hmm.
Referring to a woman as a manipulator, particularly a skilled one, who's making a very, very clever and super intelligent play that reeks of desperation. So she doesn't get saddled with the mess she or he or she or he or they, depending on the sentence, made for this to work. That's why I'm saying there were some ideas that he spotted that it's like, you're so close. You have the capacity to spot strategies and ideas, whatnot, but then you pass it through a filter and then it just gets all twisted and weird. Yes, but see, Kits and Cubs, this is why I say this is why you do need to read the other side, because there is stuff in there that is good if you sift.
Oh, yes.
Right? But you gotta be able to handle getting through bullshit that's neck high in order to get to
It's
the
neck deep.
nugget.
Yeah, it is. It really
It's
is.
But she's a skilled manipulator. Otherwise, she wouldn't have lasted this long in liberal politics. Because she doesn't have the intellectual stuff to have lasted this long in politics? No. Trust me, she's a force. She doesn't need to manipulate to last in politics. Putin knew who she was before she was appointed.
Yes.
She does not need she can last. Don't worry. She's got staying power. And never underestimate the capacity of the Liberal Party, the media, and Liberal voters to rewrite history according to some new emerging narrative as their love affair with Trudeau comes to an end. Which media are you reading, buddy? We would love to see a media out there that's still writing love letters to Trudeau. Point us to one. It would be a refreshing change. Oh, God. At a minimum, she has improved her chances of being reelected by distancing herself from Trudeau and by pinning the economic wreckage caused by his leadership on him, or she improved her chances of being reelected by engineering a soft landing. We'll agree to disagree on that point. By splitting the party into two camps, she's also forcing the other Liberal Party members to pick sides. Liberal MPs can either remain loyal to Trudeau, jump ship to Freeland's camp, or set up a third rival camp. Do you know how either works, sir?
Clearly not.
Either or, two options. More than the Liberals can either among the... Anyway. Okay. Okay. I'm sure, to be fair, that could have been intended colloquially. And in that case, either this, either that, or either that. Because he did not say either or. But after you say two camps, either, you're expecting two choices. Anyone considering option 3, which is set up a third rival camp, faces a much more difficult run for the leadership role now that Trudeau and Freeland are in rival camps and by being the first to jump ship. That's actually not true, because if there was a leadership race, then Trudeau wouldn't be one of the camps. He would not be running. Unless he threw his hat in the ring in terms of supporting or endorsing a candidate that was not Freeland or any candidate at all, which usually outgoing party leader doesn't, in Canada at least, throw the weight behind any of the candidates to not taint the process. But, they will face a much more difficult run for their leadership if Freeland is in, because she's an effective organizer and she's got clout. But Trudeau won't be in a rival camp if there's a leadership race. In the lead up to then, yes. Because Trudeau is still the leader of the party and whatnot, there's decisions to make. But after that, no. And by being first to jump ship, if a third camp does emerge, she can easily smear them as being Trudeau lackeys because they continue to serve a failing Trudeau after she split. That is indeed true. Now, she probably won't frame it as a Trudeau lackey, but someone who still supports economic policies that are probably not those that we need for the future. That's probably how she would frame it. Meanwhile, Carney, as Trudeau's current special economic advisor, is going to have to find some creative ways to rebrand himself or avoid tying himself to Trudeau's sinking ship, my God, or stay away altogether. No, he won't. At the present, no. If Mr. Carney decides to jump in the fray, yes, he will have to have some rebranding. But if he decides, you know what, this is the end of my dalliance with politics, I'm good on this side of the river, Mark Carney doesn't have to rebrand a thing, because Mark Carney has never said or done a thing. There's nothing in the public realm that he has either said or done that has anything to do with this. And at one time, he was asked to serve as a special economic advisor, external to the government, and he said yes. Who's going to fault somebody for answering the call? When the Prime Minister calls, you say yes.
Yeah. Well, that's, yeah. And it doesn't matter who the Prime Minister is, right? It doesn't matter what party is in power. It doesn't matter who the Prime Minister is. If the Prime Minister calls on you and you're capable, do it, man.
Brian Mulroney said yes.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's for the betterment of the country. And remember what John Baird said and then was slapped on the wrist for saying it.
Mm-hmm. 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 So, yeah. The palace intrigue thing, it's there. There's some positioning like this. This is the part of politics I like, the moving and the shifting and the positioning, the parry, the thrust, all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot going on. The prime minister doesn't have to say anything until January 27th, and it appears that there might not be a Terry DeMonte interview this year because it seems that the prime minister has canceled all of his year-end interviews. So the prime minister, if he did not appear rattled on the speech that he delivered to the fundraisers 2 nights ago, there might be signs that he's rattled now if he doesn't want to do year-end interviews, because he knows the question will come. So Chrystia Freeland hasn't spoken publicly in the last 2 days, neither has the Prime Minister about it. Everything we're hearing is from sources attached to either camps, how authorized they are by Mr. Trudeau and Ms. Freeland to speak on their behalf. It's also not necessarily clear. So you got to take some things with a grain of salt if you're following the gossip portion of this until there are actually facts that are confirmed in public forum. But yeah, technically the prime minister doesn't have to say anything about public about this until January 27th. And even though, and this is a transparency note for those who've been following our feeds on the show, we were under the impression that the Public Commission report on foreign interference had to be tabled on December 31st of this year, because that's the information that's still on the inquiry's website. But it seems on November 15th, at the request of the commissioner herself, they were granted a 1-month extension. So it will be January 31st. So technically, as we mentioned yesterday, if this is about the prime minister remaining in position until the report is made public and accepting the report and responding to the report before a leadership race is declared, say, if the report was being delivered by by Justice Hogue on the 31st of December, that would give about a month. See, the thing I don't know, I'm not clear on, is whether or not the date that she delivers the report to the government is the date that the report also becomes public, or whether or not the government reads it for a couple of weeks, looks at certain things that need to be redacted. If that's the case, that probably shouldn't be, because this was all based on public testimony in the public portion. But yeah, actually, no, that's true, because there was some stuff behind after. So there was some testimony behind closed doors as well. So there could be redacted information in there. So,
yeah, indefinitely.
But the prime minister has to be able to buy time, if that's the strategy, for not only the report to be delivered, which is now 1 month delayed, because had it been there, had it been the 31st of December, you could have said, wow, the prime minister just cleverly made it such that now there's no way for Pierre Poilievre to get his election before the report comes down. But if the House sits again on the 27th, and the report doesn't come down to the 31st, and there might be a couple of weeks, that's a lot of opportunities to make the government fall before this report comes down. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, not sure yet. So that one's not yet in the bag, but hopefully there will be a way to do that. Of course, unless the way the government can stop that, of course, is either by delaying the start of the next session, pushing it back, or by on the House order paper, putting all the opposition days of the party, scheduling it to the end of the calendar session, not having them any before the report comes out, and not tabling the budget, so that there's not a natural confidence motion. And that would give enough time strategically if they weren't going to do that. But so far, now until the 27th at least, the prime minister doesn't have to do anything whatsoever. So you can probably, he might pull a Doug Ford.
It's possible. I mean, he did have a few things to say.
Just go dark until the 27th.
He did have a few things to say yesterday at the Christmas party that he attended. I have a clip. This is from,
yes.
Yeah, I think this is from Fox News. Yeah, this is from Fox News. Check this out. Interesting that Fox News broadcast this.
Mm.
We stand for an economy that is fairer, greener, and stronger. An economy that works for everyone, not just the richest few. We stand for safer communities, free from assault-style rifles designed for battlefields. We stand for a woman's right to choose. We stand for the right to be who you are and love whom you love. On se tient debout pour notre culture. On se tient debout pour nos langues officielles. We stand for the rights of linguistic minorities, and that means les francophones à l'extérieur du Québec and anglophones inside of Quebec. We stand for reconciliation. We stand against those who think they can exploit the vulnerable. We stand against hate and division. We stand with workers and the middle class. We stand with Canadians. We stand up for Canada. Merci, mes amis. Thank you so much.
And he got standing ovation.
Yeah.
That
But
night as well.
according to CBC or CTV, I haven't read it in CBC yet, but according to CTV, 60 MPs in his own party are asking him to step down.
Yep. See, the numbers keep shifting and fluctuating, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because the other report that the CBCI report was that about a half dozen more have come up, and I think the first time around there might have been like 30 or so. So the numbers are anywhere like from 36 to 60. And then, well, in the other article that we read yesterday is that one third are diehard supporter, 1/3 are just he has to go, and there's another third that's sort of like I don't know right now, so maybe he should go. But so if that middle third is starting to sort itself out, maybe. But the numbers are literally all over the place here.
Well, and then I scroll down and look at the comments underneath this video, because this is a Fox News video. And this was highlighted by Art Candy, who is, I don't know. I guess she's American. I don't know. But all of the commentary under it, I'll show you some of it because it's amazing. It's amazing the compare and contrast, okay? Because now they have their incoming president, as was Donald Trump. How come Canada gets good leaders in America and all we get is orange shit? Let me just blow this up a bit so it's easier to read. I wish we had him. Interesting. Federal government apologizes to Lakota nations for historical mistreatment. Of course, he's so dreamy. We see that. Lucky Canadians, young, smart, educated, real hair, real teeth, real skin color, youth, and empathy. Melania approves. Well done. I'm so proud of him and fear what we'll have when we'll lose him. That's our guy. God bless the great state of Canada. Okay. That doesn't sound like a guy who is ready to resign. Polymarket has him at 80% for resigning before President Trump takes office. The Polymarket is a betting thing that anybody in the world can bet on. Mm-hmm. I felt like a Canadian for a second. Now that's a charismatic speaker. Thank Christ this guy's finished. We don't have to hear his nonsense. There's always one dissenter, right? But it's like most of the commentary is very supportive.
Interesting.
And this guy, Walter Kurt Castro Jr. Okay. Let's put an end to that once and for all. His parents, Margaret Trudeau and Pierre Trudeau, did not visit Cuba until 2 years after Justin Trudeau was born. So what are you going to say? She had a tryst with Justin or Fidel Castro? In the middle of the night, she flew to Cuba, got down with Castro. Come on, folks. It is geographically and timeline impossible for him to be Fidel Castro's son. Okay? If you think otherwise, I can't help you. You've been gaslit to the nth degree. If you think otherwise, I cannot help you anymore. Factually, it is impossible for that to have occurred.
Okay. In other news, this is a big one. Huge one. Because it seems that Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is getting something that she wanted.
Oh,
And then probably I don't know if there's any comment from her in this one, but I'm pretty sure she will. Well, let's put it this way: I know that she's not happy because she's still planning to go to court. So, but according to Davis Legree, the Liberal government is no longer promising to decarbonize Canada's electricity grid by 2035. Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault released the finalized versions of the government's highly anticipated clean electricity regulations on Tuesday, which outlined a plan to begin limiting emissions from the electricity sector in 2035 before reaching net zero in 2050. So basically, Danielle Smith has been going all around and saying like this, we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't do this. We need to move this to 2050. And Stephen Guilbeault has just said, yeah, we will be doing this in 2050, by 2050, instead of by 2035. Senior government officials said the change was needed to allow for a more gradual transition that will ensure Canada has reliable and affordable grid moving forward. Ottawa had received pushback from several provinces on its original timeline, including Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario. In a letter to the federal government earlier this year, Alberta Environment Minister Rebecca Schultz said the plan was, quote, a near impossible timeline that jeopardizes Alberta's grid reliability and affordability. This is the federal government's last chance to abandon its unrealistic and ideological targets and work with us to reduce emissions without damaging Canadians, wrote Schultz. Alberta, which gets most of its power from natural gas, has already a plan to achieve a net zero grid by 2050. Saskatchewan, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick are the other three provinces that receive more than a quarter of their power from fossil fuels. Currently, only 20% of Canada's energy demand is met with electricity. However, experts are projecting electricity demand to grow sharply in the near future as the burgeoning artificial intelligence industry continues to grow and as more Canadians switch to electric vehicles and heat pumps. Approximately 85% of the country's electricity comes from non-emitting sources, including hydro, nuclear, and wind solar. That's pretty good. 85% already in Canada. According to government data, the Canadian energy regulations are expected to cut 181 megatons of greenhouse gas emissions from the electricity sector between 2024 and 2050, which the feds equate to taking more than 55 million cars off the road. In contrast, the draft regulations published last year expected to reduce emissions by 342 megatons over the same time period. Modeling also suggests the regulations will have a neutral or negative impact on electricity costs in almost all provinces, though there will be significant costs associated with building out new electricity generation and storage facilities. That being said, 84% of Canadian households are expected to spend less on their monthly energy costs. The policy is backed by a $60 billion government investment meant to help keep rates low. Among the expenditures includes $20 billion in low-cost financing to the Canada Infrastructure Bank to support non-emitting electricity projects. In total, when considering health and climate benefits, the government projects the regulations to have a net benefit of $14.6 billion. In a statement, Electricity Canada, which represents the country's utilities, criticized the final policy, which it said will not be achievable in every province. Quote, there are significant regional differences within Canada, read the statement. While the objectives of the clean electricity regulation seem to be easier to achieve in some provinces, other provinces rely more on fossil fuels to generate electricity. The stringent CER regulations will create reliability and affordability challenges across Canada, particularly in provinces like Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. Meanwhile, Keith Brooks, Program Director at Environmental Defense, warned the regulations lacked ambition, as evidenced by the government's decision to extend the deadline for achieving a net zero grid. Quote, a stronger CER would have meant a huge increase in investments in renewable projects that bring local jobs and revenue on top of supplying Canadians with clean, affordable, and reliable power, Brooks said in a statement. Instead, these regulations act as a feeble backstop that will simply prevent some, but not all, new gas plants from being added to the electricity system. There's also an ongoing debate as to whether the regulations are even constitutional. Electricity is under provincial jurisdiction, but the Supreme Court has ruled that climate change is a matter of national concern, giving the federal government certain powers. Now, upon announcing this, Stephen Guilbeault said out loud, where is it? And I lost it, unfortunately. But he had basically agreed that the targets were not achievable. And in that sense, that is what Danielle Smith had been saying the entire time, except that she was, trying to undermine the process from the get-go because they were not attainable, rather than let the process go through and have the final regulations come out with something that actually was achievable, proving that she was right all along. But Guilbeault was very clear that when it came, how would I put it, the technological requirements that would be required to meet the 2035 net zero target were not feasible, and therefore that was just not going to happen. Here it is. I found it finally. Some of the things we've put on the table were too stringent and from a technical level would be too difficult to achieve without Canadians incurring very high cost, said the Minister Guilbeault. There are 3 guiding principles for these regulations: fighting pollution, obviously, but also making sure the grid continues to be reliable. It's very important. And of course, affordability. Sorry, I have to go to see on the side of my screen there.
No worries.
The government seeks to build more flexibility as it augments wind and solar power generation by allowing natural gas plants to still run, especially during extreme heat or extreme cold. So while all the parties that had been opposed to this, the usual suspects, got precisely what they wanted with regard to the timeline, they are still saying, even if you moved the timeline to 2050 from 2035, there still might be feasibility issues with maintaining enough electricity, and it still might be unaffordable to do it. So it's like, I thought the deal would have been that if we do it, if we give you the 2050, then you would be saying, well, yes, this is feasible and this is affordable and we will do it. But now it's still sort of like, no, these rules are still unconstitutional. It will still be unfeasible. It's still unaffordable, and see you in court. They will lose. They will win on a few technical points, as was the case with the climate change when, they went to the court and they said it's unconstitutional. They might get a few technical points and run with that and say, well, we got that. But the court ultimately ruled that this is a national issue and therefore it has authority. This would be the same thing, particularly if there's any electricity being going over provincial lines. Because anything that is transported interprovincially is federal. As well. Now, the generation of the electricity, yes, would be provincial.
Right.
Like this, and there might be some federal rules there that could apply. But if any of that energy is being sold and transported across provincial lines, then the federal government probably constitutionally could very well have the right to determine what level of cleanliness that energy needs to be. So you can do whatever you want in your own province, but if you're planning to export any.
Yeah, otherwise it just becomes this.
What? A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit.
Oh my God, it's so cute.
I know.
All right.
I thought it was time just for a little levity,
yes.
Just a little
some quick little tidbits before we go, because we're already late into the show. Benjamin Netanyahu's court case for bribery, fraud, and breach of public trust continues, despite the fact that he is prime minister and leading a war. United States, please take note. The trial got underway 5 years ago and has been delayed several times. He's been trying in 3 separate individual cases. I guess all at once. Once again, like Trump, he asked that the trial be proposed while he is prosecuting or persecuting this war, depending on your perspective. But unlike the United States, it seems that the courts in Israel don't care that a prime minister has a job or that the prime minister, if the prime minister is a potential criminal. And we don't care if you're leading a war. You're still sitting your butt down in court.
Yeah.
United States, take note. Netanyahu is the first sitting prime minister in Israel's history to face a criminal trial. Other good news, it would appear that a British court has ruled that the police can seize greater than £2 million from online influencer Andrew Tate. and his brother Tristan to cover unpaid taxes from the revenue generated by their online businesses.
Mm-hmm.
They are both still facing multiple charges in Romania for human sex trafficking.
Yes.
I wonder if their online businesses are in any way related to the things that they're charged with in Romania.
Could be.
Criminals. If you're committing crimes, you still need to report the proceeds to the tax person.
Yeah.
Now, I know you don't want to do that because that will usually get you caught. But that's the law. And in Vanuatu, small little island, 7.3 earthquake hit. So there's only 14 confirmed dead so far, but that will probably go up because 7.3, that will create a lot of damage. There's no water at all in the capital at the moment. All the reservoirs were damaged. Probably expect an announcement of some aid assistance from the federal government coming soon with regard to that. It's usually what we do as Canadians. So if you start hearing about Vanuatu lately, and you've got where's that? It's a little island in the South Pacific.
They held a season of Survivor there, I believe, a number of years ago.
Yes, they did.
That was how I learned about Vanuatu because I'd never heard of it prior.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I learned about it when I was in elementary school because we had to do this project in geography. And it's like I always wanted to go to Australia and New Zealand. So let's do something about all around that world. And it's like, what's this Vanuatu thing? What's this Tuvalu thing? What's this Tonga thing? What's this really?
Well, I know about Tonga.
Yeah. But I'm sitting there going like, these are countries? Really? Yeah. When I was like, 10, 11, 12. So yeah, I kind of knew about that a little earlier, but only by dumb luck because I had to do a report on that area. Yeah, it's really weird. It's really weird how you pick up information.
It is, and the beauty of something is now today in 2024, and it has been this way for quite a while now. You have the ability when you hear something, go, hang on a second, let me just put it in the old Googler, where I have now access to all human information at the touch of a few keystrokes on my smartphone. And
I know
not enough people are doing that. Instead of going to Google, they're going to certain social media sites to get bias confirmation. We thought giving everybody access to information would make us smarter. Turns out that is not the case.
Yep. Indeed.
Every village had an idiot. The internet brought them all together.
Indeed. Now, before we wrap up, a little bit about Canadians who make us proud. Yesterday, I have to issue a gentle correction of myself because when I said that Summer McIntosh had received the award for Swimmer of the Meet at the World Short Course Swimming Championships, Swimmer of the Year.
Correct.
Was the award that she won. Apologies.
That's what I had thought at the time.
So wrong, Summer, but Swimmer of the Year. And this is on top of course, this year there's going to be no debate about who the Canadian Athlete of the Year is because it's also her. And she already knows and she already got the call. She got the call, I think, a couple of minutes just after she set her first of 3 world records last week.
That
business as usual. So
at 18 years of age, she's just getting started.
I know, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
She is like Michael Phelps, a generational athlete. Athlete.
Oh yeah, absolutely. She is just phenomenal. Again, she's one of those types of athletes that eventually they build statues and put it right out front of the the National Swim Center like this event.
Well, she won a silver medal in an event that she never swims.
First time she ever swam the 200 back in competition as a senior.
Yeah.
Silver. Yeah, exactly.
Well, so, she set world records, but she also set junior records too, because at 18 she's still considered junior.
Yes. I know. So we mentioned that yesterday, 15 medals for the swimmers at that event, 4 gold, 5 silver, 6 bronze. Just absolutely fantastic performance. But our short track speed skaters also did well.
Mhm.
They collected 8 medals, including 4 gold at the ISU Short Track World Tour in Seoul, South Korea. Willem Danjanu again won 2 of the gold medals with his third 1,500-meter victory of the season and the second 1,000-meter win of the season. He is leading the overall classification in the event by 326 points so far. And we haven't even started the 2025 portion of the season yet. Over the defending Crystal Globe winner, by the way. He also leads the 1,000-meter and 1,500-meter standings. He means he's just doing it all. Stephen Dubois got a gold medal on Saturday, winning the men's 500-meter, just ahead of silver medalist teammate Jordan Pierre-Gilles. And Dubois had been disqualified from the 1,500-meter final, even though he had posted the second fastest time for making an inside pass. I saw that race. It was just like, we had finished 1-2. And, but yeah, illegal inside pass. So couldn't get it. On the women's side, Canada won its third straight gold medal in the 3,000-meter relay. For Danae Blais, it was her second medal on Saturday after winning silver in the 1,000-meter, her second consecutive podium in the distance. She was joined in the relay final by Kim Boutin, Florence Brunel, and Courtney Sarrault. On Sunday, Brunel won her second consecutive silver medal in the 500-meter to help her rank third overall in the distance. Canada also won bronze in the mixed relay. Boutin, Brunel, Danjanu, and Dubois initially finished fourth in the final, but moved to the podium after the Dutch team was penalized for an infringement against the Canadians. And then the Canadian Ice Maples, that's how they call themselves, maintained their league in the Team Crystal Globe standing with a margin of 668 points over the second place Korean White Tigers, and the ISU Short Track World Tour resumes in February with 2 stops in Tilburg, Netherlands, and Milan, Italy. So it seems that the Canadian team is the best team overall in the world right now this year in short track speed skating, even ahead of the South Koreans, who are the powerhouse in the sport. In ski cross, Marielle Thompson was on the podium twice at the FIS Ski Cross World Cup opener in Val Thorens, France. She won the first women's race on Thursday before finishing third in Friday's big final, which meant she shared the podium with teammate India Sherritt, who won that second race. And in a show of Canada's depth, Sherritt had won the small final on Thursday, while Hannah Schmidt raced in both small finals, giving a Canada of 6 top 8 finishes. 6 out of the top 8.
Cool.
Oh, crow. Kevin Drury finished third in both men's races, a great boost for him after a few years beset by injuries. On Thursday, he just beat out teammate Reese Howden for the last spot on the podium. Drury had last earned a World Cup podium in January 2022. The Canadian ski cross team will be right back at it with another set of World Cup races on Tuesday in Arosa, Switzerland. And that was Tuesday as in yesterday. And yesterday in that race, the women's team swept the podium. Gold, silver, and bronze in one event. It was a photo finish, awesome. But wicked awesome. So yeah, lots of Canadians who make us proud, and cheering on our athletes as we get ready for the Olympics. Not this coming winter, but the following one. So this is the big year to post some good results and qualify and all that stuff.
Yeah, I got some quick three things to discuss quickly before we go. I'm going to share them with you on screen right now because this is just more distraction and bluster, and except that it might not be quite what we think it is, according to some individuals. This is Donald Trump at 3 o'clock this morning, 3:23 a.m. Put this out on Truth Social. No one can answer why we subsidize Canada to the tune of over $100 billion a year. They don't. They don't subsidize us. It's a trade positive. That's how trade works sometimes. Makes no sense. Many Canadians want Canada to become the 51st state. They would save massively on taxes and military protection. I think it is a great 51st state. I think it's a great idea, 51st state. Now,
but we would not.
No, and Trump's many Canadians want Canada to become the 51st state. I don't know. He's pulling this out of his ass because I've not heard any Canadian ever say that. And then we go to this one, which I think is interesting because this had not occurred to me before. Donald Trump is talking about Canada the way Vladimir Putin talks about Ukraine. We're in real danger here. Yeah. You know what? He might not be far off the mark. Might not be far off the mark there.
Sure is beating that drum.
Yeah, exactly.
I
gotta go.
Don't like them. Don't like them.
Gotta go.
All right, kits and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. And you have the mouths from which we want the words to come. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. Now, if you would like to make sure you don't miss an episode if you are listening in podcast version, you don't have to, thanks to the Ray Girl who sponsors our pod page, podpage.com/the true North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. No, sorry, all lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. Be careful. The all in one word is our coffee thing. But for our pod page, hyphen between each one of those words. So I'll do that again. Podpage.com/the true North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words, or you scan that QR code that Mr. Grizzly just made appear. And when you go there and click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you, just like that. Now, if you would like to support us in other ways, then you need to make like Kit Elaine and surf yourself on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where we have 3 buttons that are just in the holiday spirit waiting for you. If you click them, they jingle. They don't actually jingle. We can't program YouTube sound effects, but just click them and then hear the jingling as they get happy. So like, share, and subscribe. They're right there. Click them. It helps us with all the algorithms and all that stuff and people to know that we exist. So we appreciate everything that you do on that front. Now, if you would like to support us in yet other ways, like, for example, helping us with the costs that we incur to bring this show to you, to write, research, prepare it, to have the technical stuff, have a coffee or a hot chocolate when things get particularly rough. On Monday, I needed a double hot chocolate. Needed a real stiff one. It was a tough day. So if you would like to help us with that kind of stuff, hey, I see you smiling. So if you'd like to help us with that, the QR code by Mr. Grizzly's Head brings you to our coffee page, where you will find our tip jar, also known as the Emergency Hydration Fund, but our tip jar that you could leave a couple of coins if you would like to.
Fund. It's called Keep Paul in a Home.
It's called Keep Your Beaver Moist.
It's keep me housed, man. I don't have any income.
So if you would like to drop a couple of toonies, I mean, we have enough loonies here, but if you'd like to drop a couple of toonies in our tip jar, we would be grateful, especially if the Santa Kits think that I have been a particularly good beaver all year long, or Mr. Grizzly has been a particularly good bear. So, and thank you so very much, as we are mentioning this, to Kit Carlos for your wonderful donation yesterday. Generous one as well. First-time donor. Kit Carlos is the person we talked about a few days ago on our show who leaves us these really, really substantive and meaningful comments in our comments section that we find it a joy to read and respond to. But he mentions to us here, I truly enjoy your work, and you deserve more than just my membership on the YouTube page. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so very much. And trust me, these year-end donations, especially from new listeners, really do make an incredible big difference to us. So thank you so much for your generosity. Now, of course, Kits and Cubs, if you're not able to contribute financially, as we always say on the show, do not worry about it, because the gift of your participation and attention mean the most to us, and you do a lot for us. I mean, you give us ideas for shows, you retweet our shows, you talk about our shows to people around you. All of that is priceless, and it has lots of value. So please keep doing that, and please know that we are grateful. We love to hear from you. So write to us. TrueNorthEagerBeaver@gmail.com is our email address. And of course, remember, we're trying to plan our year-end specials. So if you have any thoughts about, who your politician of the year is, internationally, nationally, provincially, or at the municipal level, the politician that was like that most turned you off, the story that most interested you, Give us some information about that, and let us know from what part of the country or the world, if you happen to not be writing from Canada, that you're writing from, so that we can share your thoughts when we do our year-end specials. We appreciate everything that you're able to contribute to the show that way. Because democracy is something that you do. Residents of Lethbridge West in the province of Alberta, your provincial by-election is today. So make sure
Please
that you
show
make
up
your
and
plan
vote.
to vote. Yes, do show up. Don't do another 16%. Please.
Please.
But do show up and vote. It's very important. This is the person that will be representing you and fighting for you in the legislature for until the next election. So this is your voice. So make sure it is heard. Right. Get some cubs. Could be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Oh, by the way, I forgot to do, since we're in the season of giving this year. If all charity begins at home, but if you happen to have a little extra and you're able to do something a little around the world, planned Canada usually has their thing, with the goats saying "Shop Today" campaigns, and UNICEF and the World Food Program and that type of stuff.
Down.
I gotta go. I'm sorry. I gotta go.
Okay. All right. Have a
See
great
ya.
day, everyone. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.